Good evening from wherever you're watching us on this 4th day of April 2023. Trust that you're doing well. Let's take a look at the top of our stories tonight. Launch of Social Protection Conference kicks off to address issues affecting the vulnerable in the society. President William Ruto is in Rwanda to address mutual interest and cooperation in trade between the two countries. IG Kwame assures journalist safety as investigations of our attack of journalists continue. And Butere Boys High School closed indefinitely over suspected food poisoning cases a day after Mukumu Girls' closure. All right, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm in the company of Ivan Sodiambo, our sign language interpreter tonight. My name is ODIDA. Welcome to the broadcast. Now, President William Ruto has today presided over the launch of the Social Protection Conference, where he has stated that government is set to disburse 28 billion cash transfer funds that has been set aside for the support of programs meant to cater for the vulnerable in the society.
While launching the Social Protection Conference that was convened by the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, President William Ruto said that the government has set aside 28 billion cash transfer funds to support the social protection programs.
The government has allocated 28 billion to support cash transfer programs implemented by the State Department for Social Protection. Our journey towards universal health coverage is underway. Already, maternity services and primary health care are provided free of charge in our public hospitals.
The president has also promised that from June this year, social protection funds will be disbursed before salaries for public servants.
Cabinet has now approved that from June 1, the social protection cash transfer money will be disbursed before salaries of public servants is disbursed. I know for a very long time we've had social protection cash transfer money disbursed 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe sometimes 7 months.
President Ruto has also urged Kenyans to develop a saving habit in a bid to combat old age poverty. Ruto says that poverty among the old people is one of the biggest problems in Kenya and that it is time for Kenyans to build the culture of saving irrespective of whether they are salaried or not. Council of Governors Chairperson Anne Waiguru has decried insufficient financial resources in the county governments for implementation of social programs, a statement that was echoed by Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Florence Bore, who said that funding for the social protection sector is still low.
The social sector has a population of about 20 million, comprising of children, older persons, and persons with disabilities who require social protection services. Yet, the funding for this sector is currently at 0.7% of our GDP.
One of the main primary challenges is the lack of coordination in the implementation of such programs, both horizontally and vertically. This often leads to fragmented efforts.
The government now targets to raise the number of beneficiaries under the protection from 1.2 million to 2.5 million shillings. Joseph Kess, KUTV.
President William Ruto has begun his two-day visit to Rwanda today on the invitation of President Paul Kagame. According to a statement by the State House spokesperson, the agenda of the trip is to deliberate on the areas of mutual interest and cooperation, which includes integrating projects on the Northern Corridor, the main supply line for imports out of the region to Rwanda through Kenya.
President William Ruto landed in Kigali, Rwanda today for his two-day visit upon the invitation by President Paul Kagame. This becomes the first time Ruto visits Rwanda since he got into power. The president is set to discuss several agendas, including trade expansion within the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, education, food security, innovation and ICT, and health. Ruto has congratulated Rwanda for advancing the relations between East Africa community members, echoing the need for East Africa nations to work together towards forming a common trade network.
We appreciate the understanding and the contribution of Rwanda in the EAC framework for us to be able to move forward. Same thing in Ethiopia, same situation in Sudan, and same situation in South Sudan.
The two countries as well as Uganda had once fronted the coalition of the willing, pushing ahead with projects such as common visa for tourists within the three, one-stop border post, and planned expansion of the Northern Corridor. However, the projects at some point were paused as the relations between Uganda and Rwanda soured before recovering. Beyond integration projects, Rwanda and Kenya will be meeting to discuss regional peace and security, with the immediate common problem being the conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, which affects both countries. So far, Ruto has met with leaders from Uganda, DR Congo, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Tanzania and Burundi, in keeping what he calls pursuit of good neighborliness. Mutunga Joseph, KUTV.
Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has presided over the launch of the Dryland Climate Action for Community Drought Resilience Project, that is DCADR, at Ole Sereni Hotel in Nairobi today. The project will be implemented by National Drought Management Authority and is aimed to end drought emergencies in Kenya.
Speaking during the launch of the Dryland Climate Action for Community Drought Resilience today, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi thanked the European Union for the continuing support they have been offering Kenya to counter the drought and famine crises in arid and semi-arid areas and other parts of the country. Mudavadi assured the European Union that every shilling from the European Union grant kitty will be prudently managed.
I sincerely thank the EU and the individual member states for standing with us during the current drought. Just 2 weeks ago, we received 25,000 metric tons of wheat under the Grain from Ukraine humanitarian initiative. We thank the EU member states that you participated in the purchase of the wheat.
Mudavadi says that the government, through relevant players including National Drought Management Authority, will ensure the financial support is channeled to the sole purpose to ensure the vulnerable communities cope with impacts of drought and climate change.
We will also ensure that additional funds are used prudently, that these funds are used prudently and for the sole purpose of ensuring our vulnerable communities cope with the impacts of drought and climate change.
The Cabinet Secretary for East Africa, Arid and Semi-Arid Areas, Rebecca Miano, says that drought in Kenya has encountered in recent years has greatly affected food security, especially in arid and semi-arid areas. The CS reaffirmed the government's commitment to finding long-term solutions to drought emergencies and strengthening resilience of livelihood, especially in arid and semi-arid areas.
I reaffirm our commitment to finding long-term solutions to drought emergencies and strengthening resilience of livelihoods, especially in the arid and semi-arid lands. And I thank the EU for the invaluable support it has dedicated to this cause.
European Union Ambassador to Kenya, Henriette Giega, saying the project would focus on leveraging innovative partnership to increase the scale, effectiveness and relevance of drought preparedness, response and recovery. She however saying that Kenya, like other countries, requires support to counter the prolonging drought and famine issue.
We have also said that we cannot work in isolation. So Kenya needs to work together with the other countries that are hit by the drought and build a structural response that goes beyond the country, that is looking at an integrated response.
With the help from the European Union, the government of Kenya is now looking for and to find long-lasting solutions to counter the long-lasting drought issue. James Moreke Mwenda, KUTV.
Right now, Inspector General of Police Japhet Koome has assured journalists of their safety and that police are investigating the incident where a civilian-dressed police officer was captured firing tear gas into a media vehicle during Azimio demos. According to IG Koome, media freedom should be respected, terming the incident as not deliberate.
Speaking during an interview of 12 shortlisted police officers for the position of Deputy Inspector General of Police at Kenya School of Government, Inspector General of Police Japhet Koome apologized to the media over attacks during Azimio la Umoja demonstrations, saying all incidents reported are under investigation. According to IG Koome, and I quote, "I want to assure our friends from the media that the attacks were not deliberately directed to them, and we will continue working closely with you as we plan to involve you into some of our future operations." End of quote. Additionally, IG Koome advised that, and I quote, "In a situation where tear gas are thrown, there could be injuries, but police in any way have no intentions of injuring any member of the fourth estate. But in case where the situation demands, the Constitution is very clear that the IG has a duty to ensure that there is law and order in the country." End of quote. According to Media Council of Kenya CEO David Omoyo, and I quote, "Police officers attacking journalists undermine press freedom, limits the public access to information, violates human rights, and can cause physical or physiological harm." End of quote. This comes after some journalists were caught in the middle of the clash between the police and protesters, with several allegedly assaulted, vehicles vandalized, and their phones and equipment stolen by goons. Edward Nyamu, KUTV, Nairobi.
A section of members of county assemblies MCAs from various parts of the country joined the Kakamega counterparts in solidarity to protest the murder of Kisa East MCA Stephen Maloba. The slain MCA was allegedly stabbed during a confrontation at a meeting in Quisero constituency.
A section of MCAs from various parts of the country have today joined their Kakamega counterparts in peaceful demonstrations calling for investigations into the murder of the slain Kisa East MCA Stephen Maloba. Maloba, who was on Saturday attending a meeting convened by the Quisero MP, was stabbed by yet to be identified assailants as he was arriving for the meeting and was pronounced dead upon arrival at the Mbale County Hospital in Vihiga. Speaking during the demos, the Speaker of the County Assembly, Mr. James Namatsi, called on the government to put in place security details for MCAs as he expressed his concerns following the murder.
Na hii tunalia kwa sababu hakuwa na security, na si yeye peke yake. Kenya mzima MCAs hawana security, na tunalilia serikali kwamba iangalie hapo mahali kwamba security ya MCAs ikuwe improved, security ya speakers ikuwe improved, security ya just vile iko kwa na MPs na senators na governors ambao wako na enough security. Let us also have security kwa waheshimiwa wetu.
On his part, the Secretary General of the County Assemblies Forum, Mr. Shege Mwaura, said it is shocking that inasmuch as the murder occurred in broad daylight, the police are yet to make any arrests, adding that the Saturday attack now has all MCAs concerned.
Kenya nzima, all MCAs are very concerned. Na tumekuja in solidarity na kuangalia vile tunaweza chukua hiyo maneno ambayo iko hapa, action ambayo assembly ya Kakamega imeamua kuchukua, sisi tuipige msasa na tuiwekelee uzito katika all the 47 county assemblies. Vile speaker amesema, there is issue za concern.
The MCAs also asked the youth to desist from temptations of being used to commit such crimes and to instead opt for patience as they exercise their democratic rights through the ballots if they are not pleased with a certain leader.
Hiyo ni laana na tunaambia vijana wawachane na mambo ya violence. Wawache viongozi wafanye kazi. Na baada ya miaka 5 kama kiongozi atakuwa amefanya kazi sawa sawa, siasa itaanza. Na tunaambia serikali ichukulie yule mheshimiwa ambaye anataja kwa hii maneno hatua kali sana.
According to the police, investigations are ongoing and the culprits will be brought to book. Yvonne Kemuma, KUTV.
An autopsy report has confirmed that one of the students who succumbed to an alleged infection at the Mukumu Girls High School died of gastritis. The infection, which led to the closure of the school, saw over 500 students affected and 124 students hospitalized. A day after the incident, Butere Boys High School in the same county has been closed indefinitely today due to what is suspected to be a cholera outbreak.
After 2 students from the Sacred Hearts Mukumu Girls High School died due to an alleged infection outbreak, an autopsy report of one of the students has revealed that the students died of gastritis. According to the report, the minor's stomach bled due to inflammation which is suspected to be caused by ingesting a toxic product. The report also revealed that the student was highly dehydrated at the time of her death. A day after the Mukumu Girls High School was shut down, Butere Boys, which happens to be in the same county, has also been closed after 100 students were rushed to the hospital in a suspected cholera outbreak. The school administration called on parents and guardians to attend to the needs of students admitted at various hospitals, while the others were asked to pick their children from the institution. As a result, officials from the Ministry of Health and Kakamega County Public Health have established measures to mitigate the spread of suspected cholera cases at the institution, citing that investigations to avert what could be a cholera outbreak in the county have commenced. Due to the 2 incidents, Kakamega County officials have placed the county at high alert for possible cholera outbreaks in order to avoid more casualties. Ruth Wanjiru for KUTV.
All right, that story right there by Ruth Wanjiru is taking us to a very fast short break at this point, so stay with us.
Lola is an app that gives you a chance to watch videos, listen to audios, and read articles wherever you are for free. Motivational stories, dramas, campus life, technology, lifestyle, adventure, sports, academics, jobs, entertainment, and more. Download Lola now on Play Store. All you need, you got Lola.
Welcome to Children's Corner. Welcome to
Children's Corner.
Children's
Corner.
Individually, I had realized that, okay, I'm good at, speaking, I'm good at this and that. And then I figured out, so how can I use the skills that I have, and make a career for myself in the tech field? Because tech is so wide. There are so many things that we can do. So all this thing about I can't do this because this is a male-dominated field. And this is just to encourage even the women, in STEM. There's so many opportunities that you really can take up, and this just aligns with your interest. And you don't really have to do something because someone expects you to do this particular thing. Just do what really works for you. What are your qualities?
Maelfu na maelfu ya wahamiaji wakiwa na watoto kutoka nchi za Amerika ya Kati wanaendelea kuwasili kwenye mpaka kati ya Marekani na Mexico.
But folks, I'm going. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ni habari kutoka pembe zote duniani.
Pepo pa si vuguvugu. Pepo pa ni idea.
Sazidi ananyonya, hanyonyi vizuri, anakuwa hayuko comfortable.
Jeshi la Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo linapambana na waasi wa ADF.
Kwa sasa wanatoa wito kwa mashirika, makampuni na vile vituo vya uchukuzi.
Mambo mengi
mengi yatakwenda kama yalivyopangwa.
Hapa ni kuna mmoja wa viongozi wa chama cha wavuvi katika eneo hili.
Zaidi tunajaribu kuwapa chanjo ili ina boost ama inanyanyua kinga ya mwili, ndio inaenda kupelekea kupambana na virusi.
Ni Duniani Leo, Jumatatu mpaka Ijumaa, moja kwa moja kutoka VOA Swahili, Washington DC.
Baada ya kutafuta kazi, tunaweza kuanzisha miradi yetu ambayo ingetusaidia kubadilisha maisha ya wazazi wetu.
Kwa vijana wenzangu, wengi wana kazi, lakini ikiwa sisi wenyewe tutajiamini, tunaweza kujiajiri wenyewe.
Afrika kwa kweli tuna mahitaji ambayo ukiyasuluhisha unaweza kuathiri watu kwenye bara hili
bila uoga. Watu huwa na uzalishaji zaidi, wanajawa na ujasiri, wanakuwa wabunifu na wanakuwa wenye maarifa.
Niliamua kuacha kazi, hata kama sitafanikiwa, nitakuwa nimejaribu, nitakuwa najua haiwezekani.
Hakuna kitu cha ajabu hapa. Kila anayepata ufanisi hufanya kazi usiku na mchana.
Kitu kitakusukuma na kuwezesha kupata maarifa ambayo hukuwa nayo.
Tunajaribu kutengeneza kitu kitakachopita mipaka ya nchi hii.
Ikiwa unataka kubadilisha ulimwengu, anza na nyumbani.
Hapo kamatia. Nyama kwani ni pepia.
Da, maisha ni haya mwanaume ali. Da, sielewi yani hata neno moja. Yani tunasikia maboko likolo. Yani ukiniangalia tu huyu mwamba huyu anafiti sehemu fulani. Wewe inakaa. Without your love, I can't move on. Yo, that's our boy Rhino the Don. Keep watching and listening to KUTV.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Let's continue with our coverage. Mathioya National Government Constituency Development Fund, NGCDF, has launched a program of distributing desks to local junior secondary schools, JSS. The area MP Edwin Mugo has said the schools hosting junior secondary schools are experiencing shortage of some of key equipments like desks, thus affecting quality of education offered in the institutions.
Mathioya MP Edwin Mugo stated that all schools in Mathioya constituency in Muranga County, which are hosting junior secondary, will get desks from CDF Kitty before mid this year. Mugo said this when he presided over the issuance of 60 desks to Kamune Primary School, which is among schools hosting junior secondary in the constituency. The MP noted that once all the money allocated for NGCDF Kitty will be released, they will move to construct laboratories and help learners from visiting nearby secondary schools to access laboratories for practical teachings.
We are donating 60 desks to boost the CBC and to boost the junior secondary and also to boost the existing primary and secondary school. We got some complaints that students here and pupils are studying on stones.
At the same time, Mugo also distributed bursary checks to 3,209 students enrolled in boarding secondary schools, whereby each of the learner was allocated 6,000 shillings to cater for part of school fees. He also revealed that another batch of 1,197 university learners are expected to get their bursaries today.
We'll be issuing bursaries to 3,209 boarding students and also 1,197 university students at a rate of 6,000 shillings per student. Of course, this will boost their education. We know very soon they will be closing school, but before, they have never got such an amount.
The head teacher of Kamune Primary School, Anthony Mwangi, lauded the desk program, saying some of his learners were forced to use makeshift chairs in classrooms. The desks, he said, will end the challenge, calling the government to provide other needed facilities for smooth implementation of CBC.
Shule yetu imekuwa na uhaba wa desks. Siku ya leo tunasikia tuna baraka kuu sana.
tunamshukuru sana mheshimiwa kwa ukarimu wake. Watoto wetu wamekuwa wakikalia hata stools kutoka nyumbani, na vile mmeviona hapa ukarimu wake. Sasa sisi desks ni karibu kila mwanafunzi awe anakalia desk yake. Sasa ukiangalia nyuso zao utaona ile furaha wako nayo.
The pioneer group of the competency-based curriculum CBC joined junior secondary school on January 30th this year after completing the first level of the new education system. Kadari Chari reporting for KUTV.
Muranga County Government has launched a minimum guaranteed returns program which is aimed to benefit and support dairy and mango farmers. In the supplementary budget for this financial year, the county administration allocated 200 million Kenya shillings to actualize the program and boost the two sectors which were in the past performing poorly.
Members of County Assembly.
Towards the end of last year, Muranga County Assembly approved the county agricultural subsidy policy that laid the basis for a roadmap to attaining a minimum guaranteed returns for both the dairy and mango farming sectors. While launching the program on Sunday at Gatunyu area, Governor Irongo Kangata said that since January this year, the registered farmers have been receiving a subsidy which is paid together with the prices being paid by the processors. Kangata observed that about 3,000 farmers are yet to receive their payments due to hitches arising from the personal details they provided, saying the challenge will be resolved and the money be wired to the farmers' accounts.
Kama wewe ni mkulima wa maembe, leo tunakupatia Kenya shillings 7 shilling per kilogram ambayo ulipeleka hiyo wakati. Hiyo ni equivalent to 3.5 Kenya shillings per kilogram per month of production. Jumuli produce January, tukampatia 3 shillings na sumuni. February tukamwongezea 3 shilling na sumuni. So hiyo inakuja total 7 bob. So wewe ufanye hesabu zako.
The governor also noted that dairy farming in Muranga County is one of the main economic activities, and the subsidy will go a long way to boost farmers in earning and also to help them produce more milk. He asked dairy farmers who are yet to join cooperative societies to do so, as 13 of the societies tendered their bids and were successful so as to benefit from the program.
Wajua sisi kwa nini tulikuja na hii mradi? One, mradi wa maembe unashika watu wa chini. Watu wa juu nao tukakuja na kitu kinaitwa milk. Nao watu wa milk na wao tutampatia shilingi kuanzia leo 3.5 Kenya shillings on and above ile pesa unalipo na processor ama cooperative every liter of production kuanzia this month up to 1 whole year.
Trade Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria, who graced the occasion, announced the intention of the government to start a new project which will help develop different counties in the country.
Tunafanya moja katika 23 counties mwaka huu. County inatoa 250 million. Rais wetu anatoa 250 million. Na ningetaka kuona county ya Muranga ikiwa katika zile za kwanza. Kwa hivyo MC ambao wako hapa, mumpatie Kangata 250 million. Mimi na rais tumuongeze 250 million. Hapa kwa Del Monte tutajenga kiwanda kubwa sana.
The leaders have lauded the program, saying it will create employment to thousands of people in Muranga County at the grassroots. Joy Maina, KUTV, Nairobi.
Now, a student in Congo has developed a tool that allows people to control or move objects using their brain signals. Andre Ndambi visited the Department of Engineering at the University of Kinshasa and has the story narrated by Salem Solomon.
When Pierre said he was a child, he watched an X-Men cartoon where one of the characters used a neural helmet. Now, a 25-year-old engineering student at the Polytechnic Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at the University of Kinshasa said he is working to make this science fiction a reality. He has created a device that allows users to control a robot using brain signals.
Le système que nous avons développé et que nous avons nommé Cerebro.
The system that we have developed and that we have named Cerebro is what is called a brain-machine interface. It is a system that is able to read the electrical activity of the human brain and to be able to interpret it thanks to artificial intelligence.
Afin de pouvoir piloter un objet ou un système robotique.
The system uses a helmet that reads the brain's electrical activity with 14 sensors and electrodes. The helmet is connected to a data collecting computer that transmits the information into commands for a robot.
Currently, brain-machine interfaces are being developed in the laboratories of major universities around the world to enable people with disabilities, including quadriplegics, people who no longer have use of their hands or their feet, to be able to control the objects in their environment directly from their brain.
In a country where scientific research does not receive significant government funding and there are few potential investors, the challenges for this young inventor are enormous.
Lorsqu'on développe une interface cerveau-machine, le premier challenge se situe.
When developing a brain-machine interface, the first challenge lies in the cost of acquiring the materials, because the materials for this research are very expensive, whether it is software or hardware.
Le premier défi à relever lorsqu'on veut réaliser une interface cerveau-machine.
One of Sadie's professors hopes this project will inspire others and jumpstart investment in this type of research.
S'il y a un appel à faire aux autorités,
if there's a call to make to the authorities, it is that they must invest in research, in the training of high-level engineers, because all the economic and social growth of each country depends on the quality of these engineers, who must be in very large numbers.
Qui doivent être en très grand nombre.
Although the neural device is in its early stages of development, Sadie believes the possible uses and applications are endless. For Andre Ndamba in Kinshasa, Congo, Salim Solomon, VOA News.
All right, we are taking another short break at this point, so stay with us.
Maisha ni haya mwanaume ali. Da, sielewi yani hata neno moja. Yani tunasikia maboko likolo. Yani ukiniangalia tu huyu mwamba huyu anafiti sehemu fulani. Wewe ni wewe inakaa. Without your love, I can't move on. Yo, that's your boy Rhino the Don. Keep watching and listening to KUTV.
This is your first time?
Yeah, I'm kind of scared, but I can do this. Mess with me. Yeah, let's do this, man.
Adventures across the African continent.
See breathtaking wildlife, stunning landscapes,
and out of this world technologies.
Meet incredible scientists
and learn fantastic facts.
Explore, discover, be amazed.
Be part of the next generation of African change makers.
Be a part of Engine, Africa's #1 science discovery program.
Yay!
We're learning every day.
University. This is all what I've heard about campus. Campus is full of freedom.
Ni cumulative.
Mchezo hiyo ili poka gani kwani?
I'm a fourth year student and I mostly hang out at shopping center. I'm a arboretum, and what I'd tell first years is it's never too late to start being serious.
Welcome back. It's time for discussion of the night, and tonight I want us to talk about the bipartisan approach. Now, on Sunday, April 2nd, President William Ruto declared that he was ready to hold dialogue with the opposition chief, that is Raila Odinga, 2 weeks after the country had experienced a protest that saw destructions of property and deaths. 3 deaths so far reported. That is official number of deaths that have been reported so far are 3. Tonight I am joined by Suba Churchill, the Executive Director at Kenya National Civil Society Center, to help us understand really what this bipartisan approach means for Kenya. Welcome back again to studio, Suba. I understand that you're not a new face here.
Yes.
Karibu tena. So
you.
let's just get right into this discussion. What's your view on this bipartisan approach?
First of all, a bipartisan approach means that 2 different parties that are not agreeing on things, that do not agree on certain issues or policies, agree to cooperate with a view to resolving them. And as a country, this probably could be, we could say, is the 18th time that such approaches have been adopted. You remember way back from our history during the independence, there were disagreements between KANU on the one hand and KADU, the one that brought together communities, Kenyan communities that believed at that time that they were conglomeration of minorities that were threatened by the convergence of the majorities. And so there was need for a bipartisan approach, especially when, our founding fathers of this country were to go to the Lancaster conferences. Because if they weren't divided, then it means the British colonial authorities would have had their way. Fast forward to 2007, we had similar, disagreements post-election, and there was a deeply entrenched feeling, complete with some elements of evidence, that the elections had been rigged. And so there was, a lot of violence, which finally culminated into the intervention of the international community, so that the 2 parties revolving around Party of National Unity, led by the late President Mwai Kibaki, and then the CORD, Coalition for Reforms and Democracy, revolving around the leadership of Raila Odinga, agreed to sit down, and those discussions were facilitated by the late Kofi Annan. And so that one could talk about, see that as, a bipartisan approach. Again, this year, as you have rightly pointed out, His Excellency the President, William Ruto, has suggested that, rather than have the protests that were turning ugly and violent, that he and his government go into a bipartisan approach. And so we saw today, immediately on that same material day, I think yesterday, the president met the leadership of the ruling coalition of the party within parliament, and perhaps, strategizing and briefing them on what his views, what he meant when he suggested a bipartisan approach. Today we saw the leadership of the Azimio One Kenya coalition party also coming out to say, yes, we welcome this goodwill, but we also have our view. So you are already beginning to see that these are parties that do not, see eye to eye on a number of issues, or even the process itself. But that's the nature of bipartisan processes.
Right.
And so at some point, of course, they love to sit down. A lot of haggling, you will hear a lot of that. Bipartisan, by merely, coming to accept that they are going for a bipartisan approach, is not the end of differences. It basically means there is a ceasefire.
Yeah.
And that ceasefire provides an opportunity and a platform for, the two divergent opinions to come to a negotiating table. Yes.
Now that you have mentioned that the country has witnessed bipartisan talks in previous years, what is likely to change for 2023 to make sure that we do not have these talks after every election?
In an evolving democracy like ours, Kenya is a very nascent democracy. Our notions of multipartyism, even as Kenyans, what elections mean to us is completely different from the ideal. And so we cannot say with finality that by this time, or let 2023 be the last time, we are having these bipartisan talks. And it is not that countries that are more advanced in democratic practices, like, most countries in Europe, today people are reluctant to cite America because America is having its own fair share of challenges. We today witnessed, an immediate former president of the United States of America, being taken to court to answer to charges of very, very serious, criminal allegations. And so we would hope that, and because all these are election related, they are related to power, we would want to believe that we will come up with a framework, especially around the elections, and especially around the election management body that we currently call the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, one that can deliver. And if I were to share with you my opinion, because I'm also an opinion leader in my own right, I do not think that the IEBC should be established in the manner in which it is provided for in the Constitution. IEBC is one of the constitutional commissions, and the manner in which it is set up is the same manner we establish the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. In the same manner we have established, other constitutional commissions, Parliamentary Service Commission, and so on. IBC performs such important functions that, its establishment and its constitution must involve, the different stakeholder interests. And I think when the people that will be coming together to represent the Kenya Kwanza side and the Azimio la Umoja side come together, and we hope, civil society, the religious sector, that they'll come to the realization that IBC performs such fundamental functions as registration of voters, as compilation of the voters register, as demarcation of electoral units. And our resources today are allocated based on those electoral units. And so they always say that with power comes resources. And so Kenyans will always contest power, and especially the presidency, because of the influence that office has. So we want to believe that we can go back to the 2002 scenario when we had an election management body, then called Electoral Commission of Kenya, in which each of the leading political parties had a representative in the commission. But this process where we have the president playing a very overarching role, will always, render those who compete with him
mistrust.
Irrelevant. Your fate is sealed as long as you allow a sitting president, to play the overarching role that office plays in the appointment of members of the IB Commission and the chairman.
All right, now that opposition has a seat at the table in finding ways on how the reconstitution of IEBC will be done, do you think this is a step ahead to ensure that there would be free and fair election if opposition is indeed given a chance to take part in the reconstitution of IEBC?
Yes, it is one of the key elements of ensuring and insulating the 2027 elections against possible, interference, and ensuring that they are free. But there are so many other factors. Even if you had an independent commission that we desire, and in fact, the wording in the Constitution is Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, though, of course, as to whether it's independent is something else. But there are many other factors. Citizens also need to be, alive to and internalize democratic ideals. We have just made reference to the 2022 elections, in which even those who were elected, William Ruto, with due respect to His Excellency, only got 7.1 million votes. Raila, if we go by the figures that were published, got 6.9. Now, there were 8 million Kenyans who registered as voters, more than the 7.1 that the president got, more than the 6.9 that the leading opposition party or coalition got. So when you have such a situation, you cannot talk of free and fair elections, because in a free and fair elections, everybody should first of all register as a voter. So, but where we have a situation where even those who registered, more than, almost 3/4 of the total number of registered voters never showed up. And so when we talk about free and fair elections, it's about universal suffrage, that every adult male and female citizen will have, the requisite documents, including identification documents that enable them to register as voters and feel motivated and incentivized to turn up and vote. Now, when you have 8 million, a lot of them young people who do not appreciate the importance of going to cast your vote, then that is not free and fair elections. And that is why, when I saw Her Excellency, the U.S. ambassador to Kenya saying, the 2022 elections were the freest and the fairest, I beg to differ.
All right, now that aside, let's now talk about the demands that took the Azimio coalition to the streets. These were the cost of living, reconstitution of IEBC, and opening of the IEBC servers. But now the bipartisan talks only focuses on the reconstitution of the IEBC. What happens to these other demands?
You see, President William Ruto is a politician, and that is how it begins. The Azimio had all those 4 issues. Remember, there was also the issue of, compromising members of parliament elected on opposition party tickets. That has rendered, parliament predominantly Kenya Kwanza, and leaving, the Azimio side with fewer numbers. And at times, in most instances, these issues are decided by the vote. So what does President William Samoei do? He already has reduced the issues because he is not keen on opening the server. But you and me know that Article 35 of the Constitution empowers every citizen access to information held by the state or any agency of the state. And that's the basis on which anybody, leave alone Azimio, anybody, nobody needs to protest. One just needs to say, out of curiosity, I want to access the server because the server just holds information.
But the servers were opened by the Supreme Court.
No, they were not. You see what happened? Not everything was opened. The Supreme Court Azimio side wanted the servers opened, but the Supreme Court only allowed in select, because they wanted there to sample. So the server was not opened. And part of the reason it was not opened is because the people who hold the copyright, these things are, held abroad. I don't know which country it is. I think it is France or wherever. It has issues of copyright. So no server, and there was a letter. They wrote a letter.
Is there proof?
There is a letter they wrote to say we cannot allow unlimited access to the server because of copyright issues. So on that, I know Azimio is right, that no server was open. In any case, why should it be closed? Of course, the cost of maintaining it may be expensive, keeping it open. There may be interferences. But when there is demand, Article 35 of the Constitution that gives people the right to access information held by the state or any of its agencies applies. That law, that article of the Constitution is still operational. So Ruto, in his political mind, already removes that. In the issue of cost of living, of course, he promised that within 100 days, he even had a figure at which people will be buying 2 packets of maize meal, and his figure was 70 Kenya shillings. Now you and I know that the Kenya Kwanza government is almost in its 7th or 8th month after taking oath of office.
Yeah, 7th.
7th. Now that, even if you are poor in maths, you'd know is much more than the 100 days within which the Kenya Kwanza government would reduce the cost. So he knows that he has not fulfilled that, so he's removing it. But it's a very pertinent issue. So whether the president, because remember the president was also very clever, he said, I suggest. Now that is a mere suggestion, despite the fact that he's the president. When the group will meet, Azimio will still bring back the issues, and don't be surprised if the issues become even more than those that Azimio raised, because Kenyans have their grievances. I've already seen religious leaders suggesting that let everybody be brought on board. We in the civil society also have our issues. There is a law that was passed in this country way back in 2013, was assented by former President Mwai Kibaki, that has not been operationalized. The Public Benefit Organizations Act. So we will also be bringing our agenda and asking the government to implement.
All right, in the interest of time, now I want you to have a proper take off from the studio. Now, should a common ground not be arrived at in this reconstitution of our EBC, what do you foresee for Kenyans now that we just witness Kenyans go to the streets? And Azimio la Umoja, the opposition chief, said should the demands not be met in 1 week time, they are going back to the streets. What do you foresee for Kenya should these demands not be met?
Of course, there'll be a lot of pressure on both sides. I believe that even what transpired on Sunday was as a result of a lot of pressure. But it will also test the sincerity and honesty of the president and even the leadership of Azimio and even Kenyans themselves, that we need to seize the momentum created by this ceasefire, and ensure that we bring on board those issues, including what made 8 million Kenyans who registered as voters not to turn out, and what made even the other larger millions of Kenyans who did not bother to register. Remember, IBC was expecting I don't know how many millions, but only a small percentage registered.
Yeah.
So who are those and why didn't they register? And we need to interest them, because democracy is about public participation. It's about everybody being a stakeholder and everybody having a voice in the day-to-day management of public affairs.
Right. Thank you so much, Suba Churchill, for making time for us tonight. That is the Executive Director, Kenya National Civil Society Center. We appreciate your time. Now we have come to the end of our bulletin tonight with that interview on the bipartisan approach. See you next week, inshallah. Have a good night.